Coach Saban last month was at the Alabama Football Coaches Association Clinic, and he's talking to coaches, he's talking to people, he's sharing nuggets and tools and information of wisdom. Coach Saban touched on a lot of things. I mean, he spoke on leadership. He spoke on the Henry Ruggs situation, a very tragic one that being. He spoke on the NCAA transfer portal and NIL and how that has affected high school recruiting. He spoke on many things, but in the middle of the conversation, he opened up about how Alabama lost in the national championship game to Georgia. Nick Saban doesn't open up about a lot that when it comes down to that his particular teams or that particular team at that moment, but he decided to take us behind the curtain, if you will, and show this is what caused this past team, the 2021 team, to not finish the job against Georgia in winning the national championship, or not winning the title, as I should say. So what Coach Saban mentioned, he discussed, Alabama being down two cornerbacks, Josh Jobe and Jagan Armour-Davis, due to injury, and he touched on not having the best backup corner as Marcus Banks, the transfer portal. But when it got down to the wide receivers, he mentioned there were three wide receivers, and he didn't state any names, three wide receivers that did not buy in fully to the Saban process. Three wide receivers that did not take the practice reps seriously. Three wide receivers that did not take their roles seriously. Three wide receivers that just did not do all that were expected of them. So when the moment came in the national championship where you had Jamison Williams go down, when the moment came in the postseason where John Mechie went down, these particular young receivers were not ready for the moment. And the three guys he was referring to, according to close sources I have spoken with within the program, those three would be Traeshon Holden, Agiye Hall, and of course Javon Baker. Now, one of the three, we all kind of had an idea where Hall is concerned, and then you got Traeshon Holden and Javon Baker. And what's interesting here is, all three were heavy on social media this past season. Not saying there's anything wrong with social media. It can be used as a good tool, but all three were heavy on social media, on Twitter, just talking about y'all gonna feel me, y'all gonna feel me, y'all gonna feel me, y'all gonna know where I'm coming from. This is my season, this is my season. And all of the talking that was done on Twitter by these three, but when the moment came, not ready for it because you were not preparing yourself in practice. You were not preparing yourself in drills. You were not preparing yourself in that moment to where when you get to the big game, it doesn't overwhelm you. It doesn't take you over. It doesn't startle you or shock you. Why? Because you would be prepared. And those guys were not prepared. And a lot of talking on social media. Hall in particular was dropping a lot of those cryptic tweets. I remember at one point, I think it was against Mississippi State, where he said, I think I'm going to call it quits, and later would delete that tweet, and it had that happen right there. And just all over Twitter, just dropping cryptic tweets left and right, and we had to kind of do NYPD Blue, so to speak, go in, dissect, and discover what is Hall trying to say with his message here on social media. And Javon Baker, kind of the same thing all over social media with his tweets, just due to they felt like we're not getting enough playing time, we're not seeing the field, we're not getting passes thrown our way. But even with all of that, you still have to be prepared for when that moment comes. Coach Saban always talks about it. Even when you're not getting the ball, even when you're not on the field, you find a way to be engaged. You find a way to be locked into the team, locked into whatever's happening, on the field. And those three, when the big moment came because they were not prepared, that's where you saw drops, where balls hit them dead in their hand. Agiye Hall drops in the national championship game, ball him dead in his hand. Javon Baker dropped the pass in the Cotton Bowl against Cincinnati, ball hit him dead in his hand. So that's why you saw the drops. Traeshon Holden, national championship game, couldn't get enough of that separation, couldn't get to that spot in the back of the end zone against Georgia. Bryce Young put it right there. Holden didn't get to it fast enough, and that was a touchdown situation that could have happened if these guys prepared, locked in, focused on the field. And for Javon Baker, of course, now he's at Kentucky, so him with the Wildcats, he takes all the messages he's learned. He takes all the training, the techniques, the tutelage he's gotten to the Wildcats. So he's in a completely different program in the SEC. But when it comes down to Hall and Holden, where do they go to from here, right? Because when Coach Saban says this, and even though he didn't state any names, you can kind of read between the lines, but where do these two go to, in particular Hall? Where do these two go to from here? How do they take this moment of growth and learning and being critiqued and all of this? How do they take this and apply this to this upcoming spring? Because this spring, it's going to be about who has that chemistry, right? Who has formed that connection, that continuity, that camaraderie with Bryce Young, who's returning off a Heisman Trophy season. Who can have that chemistry? Who can have that oneness with Bryce Young from the quarterback perspective? Can Hall put it all together and be the guy to have that oneness with Young? We'll see. Can Holden put it together, be that guy to have that oneness with Young? We will see. But I thought it was very interesting how Coach Saban took us behind the curtain and showed and displayed and talked about, this is why the team came up short. This is why we came up short here of a national championship game. Yes, injuries. Yes, unfortunate bounces, unfortunate situations. But we had some guys that were not all the way bought in. We had some guys that did not take the practice, that did not take the preparation, that did not take the journey and opportunities to get to this point seriously. And when they were thrusted into the big moments of the season, were not ready due to not being prepared in taking those moments seriously. So for Coach Saban, we see here the reason why he likes to say, you do the little things right. You do the small things right. You take care of every single finite detail, because at some point you're going to get into a game. At some point, you're going to be thrown into a matchup. And if you're not taking these finite details seriously, it's going to come back to bite you. And it came back to bite all three of these guys. Baker, off to Kentucky. We will see what Holden and Hall do in improving from all of this.